Tara sitting closest to the gavel. I guess she's gonna be the chairman.
She's the new chairman.
Oh.
We'll vote that in quickly.
Yes, Dave. Jeffrey's 9:00.
Okay, well, let's just go ahead and get started. I'll text Jeffrey. Unless one of you have heard from him.
No.
Unless he was only replying to the 17th. Not today.
There he is.
Wonderful.
It's no warmer in here.
We're gonna do some jumping jacks.
It's okay, we voted you the next chairman, so. I thought you said I had your proxy.
All right. Okay. This is the DDD Design Committee meeting in the Hammond City Council chambers on Thursday, January 4th at 9 a.m. We'll do roll call. Chris Bankston,
Here.
Tara Bennett,
Here.
Roy Dufresh,
Yes, here.
Michelle Juneau, Tom Pastorius, Jeffrey Smith. Okay. One change before we get started into old business is that our last meeting, we did not approve the October minutes. Honestly, I'm not even quite sure if it will be able to pass today. Let me see. Because of the people who were there or not there. No, we'll not be able to pass today, so we'll just move. We just won't worry about that. Because I forgot to add on the approval of the October minutes, but we also don't have a voting quorum. Wait, no, we do, because Roy was gone, but we have 4. Okay, yes, we will. So I need someone to make a motion to add on approval of the minutes for the October meeting to the agenda.
So moved.
Okay.
Sorry, beat you to it.
No.
Who's second?
Jeffrey did.
Okay. Chris Bankston,
Yes.
Tara Bennett,
Yes.
Roy Dufresh,
Yes.
Michelle Juneau, Tom Pastorius, Jeffrey Smith.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll see those minutes. It's kind of in a weird spot. They're after the drawings for the welcome sign from our meeting from October 5th.
I was absent.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Chris Bankston,
Yes.
Tara Bennett,
Yes.
Roy Dufresh,
Yes.
you
I'm
would abstain.
Abstain, yeah.
Michelle Juneau, Tom Pastorius, Jeffrey Smith.
Yes. Can we get an update on this pink house?
Yes, so it's not gonna be painted pink. It basically, the only permits that his renovation actually required were for interior work. And the way that our purview reads is that we really only review projects that require, that for new construction or a renovation to the exterior. So that's something, but he basically decided that he was going to paint it black.
Paint the black.
And, so just for some context, so Robbie Klein owns he's a photographer, and he owns another studio in Nashville called Taylor House. And it's a similar style studio where he basically converted a house and it's painted black on the outside. So he felt that for his brand in his business, that because pink wasn't favorable, that black suited more for his brand and what he's already done in Nashville, because this will be basically the Hammond Taylor House. So if you all would like me to, whatever you feel inclined to do, but basically at this point, from what I have gathered, is that he doesn't need a permit for any exterior work, so it's a sticky situation for the design committee to give input. But he's decided to not paint it pink.
Is that an opinion that came from the city attorney?
So in all the times I've spoken to Andre about the committee's purview, that basically is where our opinion gets sorted out. Before a permit is released, we should be reviewing plans and projects, and our review authority is only for exterior. And the way the city's current permitting process goes, a permit alone is not required for paint. However, if he were to be doing other extensive exterior renovation that included paint, then that would be something that we would review.
Yeah, it's a little troublesome for me, because, in the district where we're trying to
Right.
improve the aesthetic appearance of our buildings, painting an odd color to a building could be very detrimental to the whole concept of what we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
you might need to look at that with the
Yeah.
city council, since we can't get that amended.
So basically, if you wanted to paint it pink, you could.
You could.
Well, we approved it.
We did-
We really didn't think we had
Didn't want.
authority to say no. But
Right, but the process basically would be, once we approve something, I draft a certificate of appropriateness and I submit it to the city. He doesn't even need to go to the city for a permit to do that. So I think with some of the staffing changes that have happened at the building department, now have a new city planner, there's a new building official, there's new code enforcement. In this new year, I think we're all going to be getting on the same page about how this kind of flows. And I think, I don't know on their end what they have that says painting doesn't require a permit, but that's basically what I've been told. So anyway, it's something that we can look at, but that's the update for our South Cherry House.
thank you.
Okay, so next is approval of the meeting minutes from November 2nd. Those are the first page in your packet. This one actually will not be able to pass. So we'll have to table this one. Because Michelle and Jeffrey were out.
Oh, you don't have a complaint, everyone on forum, I got you. Okay.
So can I get a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Second.
Chris Bankston.
Yes.
Sarah Bennett.
Yes.
Roy Dufresh.
Yes.
Michelle Juneau. Tom Pastorius. Jeffrey Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item, review of welcome sign. Roy is our man. You have some,
What you got
go
in your packet is like an 80, maybe 85% CDs. Just to kind of tell you where we are. My structural engineer's reviewing some stuff now. I should have the red lines this week on that. The electrical consultant will have the drawings on Monday or Tuesday. Our objective and our schedule is to try to get the thing out to bid in early February. So I'll be working on specs. In the last month, Michelle and I have met with 2 LED sign companies, manufacturers. One that we met with was recommended by the city IT person. What was his name? Malcolm? Marcus.
He's no
And
longer with us.
He's kind of an independent company that does LED signs. And then we met with and that company had some limitations on what they could do and as far as connectivity to the sign, so that, it makes it a little more difficult for people who are operating the sign remotely. And so we met with another company, another sign who represents Daktronics, and Jeffrey, I'm sure y'all know, and probably y'all all know about Daktronics. It's probably one of the biggest LED sign companies in the country. They do most of like the signs in the Superdome and those kind of things. What we liked about them was it's self-control by cellular. That's part of their package. The signs are monitored 24/7. They can be accessed remotely by the company. So we had the IT guy from the city in both meetings. He really liked the Daktronics product.
Yeah.
Although,
Well, just so we're clear, so Marcus McMillan was the IT department head.
Yeah.
He resigned in like mid-December, so we met with Clint Cotton, who was basically working underneath Marcus for these meetings. And so, but either way, in terms of the city's knowledge of how this sign will be basically sustained, monitored, and maintenanced, we basically got his opinion for what would be the easiest way to do that. So just so that people kind of know how it kind of flowed. Yeah. And two, whenever we were sitting down and chatting with them, obviously there are two different types of signs, so that informed the specifications that we will be putting into the bid. So it will be open to any company
Yeah.
to bid for it, but knowing that it's basically two different products that we were kind of looking at, we had to make the choice of what was the best fit for us to maintain. And so
do you have the rendering?
the rendering, the big one,
Yeah, the rendering of the sign. I mean, if anybody wanted to see the rendering, because if you weren't here at the last meeting in November, you didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
I don't have the big one on me right now,
Oh.
but I have,
Well, that's kind of it.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
We're not done, and there's a few things I'm reconsidering, like the cap. I'm thinking about maybe not doing an alternate for a metal cap instead of a stone cap, just to tie it back into some of the channels in metal. It'll be powder coated channels with like these decorative rivet kind of things. So it'll be kind of a mixture of the brick and metal, all powder coated. The cabinet that the sign comes in is going to be black, and that's basically the only color they come in. So I'm thinking our metal may be black or gray or something like that. That's kind of what we think at this time, unless y'all have some other thoughts about that.
Yeah, the cap is, I think the cap would be better.
Yeah, I'm just really cost conscious. We really, I've got some alternates built into it, like the planter in front is going to be an alternate. Just because the sign can exist without the planter in the front, it'll be fine, but I have to have some alternates built into it, like the landscaping, which is going to be very minimal. It's just something else for the city to not be able to take care of. And so the cap, I'm probably going to do an alternate with the cap too. Thinking about doing kind of a metal standing seam cap that would be painted the same thing. So that's one of the things I'm working out. That'll be part of this too. So instead of the stone cap, because I think the metal would actually be a better look with the rest of the metal going in there.
Yeah.
And we had the laser cut signage in the front that's backlit. And that's my electrical consultant will be working on that and providing electrical to the sign. Those are really the only electrical requirements, other than power to the sign, which is pretty minimal and pretty straightforward.
So the letters are cut out more, but they're not, you don't have any plastic or anything behind
No.
like that, just open
Mhm.
for the bricks behind.
Mhm.
So
It'll be kind of like a strip light that runs around that little recess that's in the brick, so to kind of eliminate. We don't want a whole lot of light. We just want to be able to eliminate enough but not compete with the sign.
Is it going to be a
What do you
similar
call it,
product
backlit?
to,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, backlit's a dirty word
Why?
for historic district.
Yeah, but this is not in the historic district.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
That one,
I know.
Right.
we're introducing ourselves to,
So should we not do that?
no, I think.
I just don't want to put it.
That's why I asked if it's got plastic behind it, because then that would
Yeah.
be truly
Right.
backlit. But
Yeah.
you're just lighting the wall behind.
Yeah,
it,
that's all
which is
we're doing.
fine.
Yeah, it's not. There's no plastic or anything
It's like
behind it.
shadow lighting.
As long as you have ability to get to those lights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these,
'Cause I
yeah, the
could-
sign can come off. The sign will be able to come off, and they'll be able to access from the back. And I'm meeting with Ray Nolan Monday or Tuesday to go over. I haven't handed it off to him because he's been busy, and I haven't been at a point to give it to him, so that'll happen Monday or Tuesday, and we'll go over all those things. But that's where we are. So In the next few weeks, I'll be doing specs, and we'll be finishing up the drawings and getting our structural review incorporated into this, as well as our electrical drawings, and then we'll be ready to advertise, hopefully about a month from now. We'll have to go before city council with it.
That's gonna be a Lacey question. It
I'm just thinking about timing. I need to,
right,
you
it,
know, figure out when they're meeting and when I do my specs.
Depends
and all
on-
that, dates.
Talk about for approval to build.
Yeah, with the city,
No,
city project.
I don't think so, but we can walk over to Lacey's office after this if you have time.
Maybe.
Is you looking for some controversy?
Do I?
You looking for some controversy?
I'm just looking, make sure I do it, the process.
Yeah, we'll just follow up with Lacey to make sure that we're doing what we need to do,
Yeah,
Yeah.
not putting
Let's see
ourselves
if
in
that's
a more
possible.
difficult situation.
that's usually the way it's been done with the city project, huh?
Yeah. Some different entities do it differently.
Approval of a contract and
Yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
definitely.
I don't think to do bid advertisements, it requires to go to council. I
Okay.
think once the point the
I'll
contract
move
is
to
being
that.
awarded.
We'll talk to her, or I'll
Yeah.
email her or something, find out. Anyway, that's where we are.
Good. That's good.
room being also hanging meat in this room sometime?
What was that?
Are they hanging meat in this room later? Because it's freezing cold.
Oh, no,
here.
no.
Well, I think they just had
Motion to
the,
adjourn.
they turn off the system if the building's not being used, and I'm pretty sure we're the first meeting since the holidays.
We missed our banter earlier.
Yeah.
We're warming it up for folks. Okay, any questions about welcome sign before we move forward? Any public
Great
comment?
question.
Speak now or
That's
forever hold
good.
your peace.
All right, so just quick director's report. ASI got back to us for the revised installation date. It was supposed to be today or tomorrow, but they emailed us a couple of days ago, and now that January 12th or the 13th is projected. So we will continue to wait on them.
Just as a reminder, alert me when they're setting up to do that so I can be here.
Yeah.
So I can go over some of the mounting details and all, and what we
Mhm.
talked about with historic district, and make sure that we get it done. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I don't know if Kristen remembers that we need
Yeah.
to talk, so.
We will do that. We had the second round of benches installed before the holidays with the pavers, so those have been installed. Regarding picnic tables, the cost of the picnic tables that we chose has increased pretty substantially. They increased by $1,000 each. So I have requested a quote from, and the company that we were going with was Landscape Forms. That's the company that the benches in the park, that was the vendor that we got those from. And so we went with we went with the same company to find a product that kind of matched. It was a different line, but it was called the Gretchen picnic table. They were that black with gray composite seating. I'm trying to find my email. So I went ahead and I looked at one of the city's vendors that they use. It's called, I think it's called Cityscape. Hang on, let me find it in my email. I have the example, but they have a similar style of picnic table. It is, password works. It's not gray. It's not a gray composite. It's still a composite material, but it's more of a wood-like finish. They also do have a wood style, very hardwood style, but this is from Sitescapes. So like I said, it's very similar to the Gretchen, if you don't remember what the Gretchen looks like. I can pull that up really quick. Landscape Forms.
Kind of match, burn these things. Kind of match.
So we had looked at this option.
Drag us a trash can.
So the unit cost for these is $3,500, which is just a little bit much. especially because we were asking for, we did not budget to purchase these. We were going to do sponsorships for them like we did the benches. So what I would prefer to do is actually buy them and then just try to get sponsorships later, but we don't have, an additional $15,000 in our budget to just spend right now because we're only halfway through.
How many are you?
4.
4?
So I requested a quote for these. It's a similar style. They're similar materials as well. They don't come in gray, but there are we can get the umbrella hole. They can be freestanding, like how we think would work a little bit better in the space, instead of them being surface mounted. So I'm getting a quote for these, and I'm hoping that it's a little bit better, but just updating you that we kind of are going back to the drawing board with that furniture option.
How much they weigh?
How much they weigh?
How much do they weigh?
I mean, are
Just
they?
like, are they gonna walk off?
Right.
Well, we discussed that last time with this as well. We discussed freestanding versus surface mounted. We can surface mount them, but the picnic tables that are there now are not mounted. They're freestanding. We could mount them, but that kind of reduces some of the flexibility of the space. So it's probably in here somewhere in these
Just a question.
specs.
What colors do they come in other than that?
That's the only colors that they have.
The only color? What do those cost versus the other one?
I haven't gotten the quote yet, but so we'll revisit this, I guess, in February. But I just wanted to let you know that I'm looking at some other options because landscape forms has gone up.
But they're gonna be a sponsorship?
That was the plan to do that, but they are double the cost from the benches. So it's in terms of pricing them so that they kind of, we're not losing money on them, I guess. It's something I haven't really had time to sit down and think about, but the idea was for them to be a sponsorship. They are double the cost from the bench. So our bench sponsorships were $3,500. The cost of the picnic table that we were gonna get was $3,500 alone. The cost of the bench was around $17,000. So it kind of gave us some more cushion to fund other things.
Yeah.
So, not saying that we necessarily need to make money off of these, but it would be good to just be able to break even to have them. But the challenge is we get a price that's only good for 30 days. If we haven't secured all the sponsorships, then we're asking them for one price, and then we may be paying for another price once we finish the sponsorships. So I would prefer to just pay for them and then get the sponsorships later, but we don't have the flexibility in our budget to do that right now. So just kind of probably a little bit more information than what you need, but we'll look at it in February. We do need picnic tables in the park pretty bad because our ones that are out there right now are falling apart. And those are a little bit more favorable to use than just the benches because people are eating at the market and all those other things. So if you have any suggestions.
My only thought is, what about a local craftsman to build something? Would that be save money?
As what material?
Could be aluminum, could be
Yeah.
wood, could be whatever.
Or it could be like a composite.
Yeah,
you
it
could
could
do
Could be,
composite
yeah,
decking.
match it, right?
You could use a composite decking on the benches.
metal,
Seats.
powder coated, and then do the seats in that composite.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if that'd be cheaper or not.
Yeah.
That composite material is expensive.
Well, if you have any suggestions about who I could ask, just if you have know someone that does that, I can follow up with them to see what that's looking like, and then once I get a quote back from them, we can kind of move forward from there in the direction that we think is.
I don't know your husband? That'd be cool if there's some, John Carroll, like the artwork at the Hanson Street crossing. That way you kind of engaging local talents and capacity.
I'm gonna ask my he knows if anyone else is willing.
And these things are great, but they are all pricey, always very, very expensive for that. stuff. I don't know if it's cheaper or not, just throwing that out there. I thought.
Well, we will look at some other options. In 2023, we discussed in our later months identifying some projects for this year. So I'm not, I guess, quite prepared to go into a super amount of detail on them because the new year has just started and I haven't really had a time to do a bunch of meetings. But before the year ended, I did connect with the city grants department about the transportation assistant program grant that's through DOTD. It's been quite some time since our community has utilized this program for intersection improvements. The purpose of these funds is for pedestrian safety and any biking safety as well. So this intersection improvement that we've identified at Oak and Thomas is a really good candidate for this grant. And we also have already met with DOTD last year about looking at some improvements there. So we will be keeping it on our radar for when that application opens and working with the city's grant department to utilize this opportunity for downtown intersection improvement.
How much money?
So it requires it's either 20% or $20,000 match. I can't quite remember, but there's
80/20.
I don't know the ceiling. I don't know the grant specific requirements, but historically this has been a difficult program for municipalities to use with the state. It would take projects 4 times as long if the city had all the funding in hand to do it, just with some of the review processes. But I think there's been a change at DOTD with this program because there's been funds left over year after year after year. And so with that, knowing that the program hasn't really worked as best as it could, I think they've made some changes, and hopefully we can apply for it and have a better experience, because Charles had expressed to me that the last time we had an award from this program, they actually agreed to not accept the funds because it upheld a project for so long. And I think other municipalities had some of that experience too, which is why there have been funds left over for this program. But neither here nor there. I think moving forward, it should be a little bit easier to use, and it's an opportunity that we should be looking at. So.
Is this the old transportation enhancement program?
There's a few different acronyms.
Wait, isn't it the sidewalk thing that's supposed to continue from Hanson Street all the way to the university?
That was a grant that never happened, but somebody had it.
Yeah.
I think it might have been you guys. Andrew and them had it with Bodan or Bowden. Or maybe it was I don't remember, it was a while ago, but yeah.
You never
It
get
was-
it approved, and that was part of the process.
It looks like it was previously known as the Transportation Enhancement
That's
Program.
okay, yeah. It's an 80/20 match. I've done a lot of them. 80/20 match, and it's anything, transportation, anything along a transportation route, like even a railroad. They might have paid for some of our history exhibits if we'd have thought about it back in the day.
Well, I think like Rails to Trails,
Mhm.
they fund that kind of work. So I think it's a really great opportunity. It's been underutilized. There's a lot of funds to be had. So I am working with the grants department to make sure that we are leveraging all the resources that are out there to move some projects along.
You ought to get that sidewalk project back on the radar, because that was,
You haven't,
Which one?
the sidewalk, there was a sidewalk grant that came all the way up from the mall, basically.
it went from Hanson, where it ended, to Southeastern.
Yeah, that's the one that was never done.
It was a sidewalk enhancement project that,
The one all down Railroad Avenue?
Yes.
All the cypress trees?
Yeah.
That was a.
because kind of the sidewalk kind of ends at Hanson, and then you have no way to get from there. You have to walk the streets or the tracks or something.
Yeah. I will look.
You don't know who at DOTD is handling that anymore, do you?
I don't. The
Steve Meeks used to have a guy named Steve Meeks. He might still be doing it.
that name doesn't sound familiar. If I go back I wrote down a name recently of someone that I was talking to. I'd have to look at it, but I can check.
Because it's good sometimes to go, if it's if Steve Meeks, I know him pretty
Okay.
good. If it's him, we could go over there and meet with him. Go over there and meet with him, talk to him about our projects and stuff, because we've done that before with them, and they're very open. They're trying to give money away.
Right, yeah, I mean,
They're trying to give it away.
that's the,
And there's a cycle. I mean, there's like a timing you have to, I don't know what the time, it used to be like July. You had to have your applications and all in by July, and
yeah,
we could find all that out and
Right.
make sure we're, prepared
Mhm.
if there's a project that we want to apply for.
yes, yeah. And I guess that cycle or preparedness to maximize all these opportunities just hasn't happened over the past couple of years. I don't really know why that is, but I certainly am focusing on this as a priority to make sure that we don't forget about it and that we are doing our due diligence to try to make it happen. So, like I said, with some of the changes in the city, the city planner, the building department, all these other things, I am pushing for a meeting with all of us to just get on the same page over the next couple of weeks, and then hopefully trying to get department heads to meet on a monthly basis, which is maybe not my wheelhouse, but in my experience with trying to work with the city, some more communication opportunities between department heads would really help, I think, everyone. So anyway, a lot of movement in that direction, and just trying to build our partnership with the city a little bit more and get everyone on the same page. So one thing we did talk about was developing some of those permanent markers for the walking tour. I have spoken to the historic district. They're interested in participating. We don't have any firm really plans for that at this time, but at least when in talking with Heather, some of the funds that they have and how they're dedicating some of the funds that they have, and if we could partner on that. So more information to come.
You kind of have a guideline for that based on the markers in the park. Be similar type of concept, right?
Yeah.
Smaller scale, but
yeah.
same
Yeah.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
I just looked it up. Steve Meek is still handling the DOTD
Okay.
transportation program.
Would you like to?
I'll contact him.
Okay.
Just
And
tell him
you'll-
we have some ideas and could he meet with us?
Yeah. That
Go
sounds
over
like a
and
good
see him
idea.
and Find out. They got all the applications right here. I could find out pretty quickly I'll find out. I'll handle that.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you for doing that, Roy.
No problem.
So we did talk about landscaping and tree maintenance plans, and we haven't really had a specific discussion about what that looks like. But with some of the city changes, like I mentioned, Whitney Statham was the department head for Parks and Grounds. She has moved over to a different role, city beautification and special projects. And so with that, I know that she has her arborist license now. So there's been some transition in her role, and it seems like she'll have more of a focus on maintenance of our landscaping and our trees, and being a better point of contact for us to move some of these things along, because she's not having to manage as much with that, since she's not the department head anymore. So trying to clarify really what the goals are with her new role, and see how we best maximize that change to get a downtown that we all can be proud of and that we want to see. And building on that change would be having some of the groups that used to do a lot of this landscaping work, like the Hammond Garden Club and Keep Hammond Beautiful. They kind of have not really done a whole lot, and for, I guess, a few reasons, just city staffing and volunteerism not really being as common as it used to be, maybe. So we're really trying to work to see how do we get all of these groups that used to be really involved in the betterment of our community in downtown back on the same page. So
You're missing one, Michelle, is the tree committee for the
Yes.
city of Hammond, which used to be the urban forestry
Uh-huh.
committee. That I'm still a member of that, but it's dormant. And the people that I know that are trying to resurrect it are Cassie Reagan, and Leslie Bonner. She has all the files, by the way, Leslie. But,
Mhm.
so they're trying to resurrect that committee to help shepherd this along.
Yes. Well, so I think that there's, I guess, an opportunity more so than there has been in the past. I'm not quite sure, but it seems like there's city staff available to help convene some of these things, so that it's a little bit more sustainable than just, it being a volunteer effort. There will be a volunteer component to it, obviously, but I think that's one reason why some of these things have just fallen out of practice.
The ultimate goal that I've been pushing for is for this tree committee to get recognized by the city and have regular meetings. And then have someone with the city responsible. Maybe it could be Whitney that, shows up at a monthly or quarterly meeting and talks about the health of our street trees anyway, that needs to happen. They need help, especially after what Ida did to us and just devastated our canopy of trees.
So more things to come. We'll continue those conversations. Last thing here is just upcoming property renovations that have been reviewed by the historic district. So all of these are contributing historic properties. You may know about some of them, you may not, but I do think that there's a lot coming in 2024, especially with some of our buildings that have been underutilized, like 115 South Kate and the Strawberry Patch building. It seems like there's really good progress on getting those rehabilitated and returned to commerce. Other business expansions and other renovations are happening too. So looks like we're in this new year with already a lot of good movement in play. Jeffrey?
A few comments?
Yes.
It's okay. One thing that's happening, if y'all noticed it, Kate Street Station, Darrell Smith has blocked the parking lot, for the old A&P building. And as a result, the parking is treacherous all around there, halfway in the street and so forth. And I'm wondering what happened to the city was going to do the parking lot across the railroad tracks between Hanson and Coleman. I don't know what killed that project, but I certainly like the.
I think they were over budget, and they don't own the land.
Yeah, we still have to get, basically, needs to be expropriated from the Kate heirs. And then there's still, that's the first part. And then the second part is working with the railroad to, however we did the work in, I don't know when the parking malls were developed, in the 70s or 80s, but.
Well, they just did one across from the steakhouse. That was an expansion of that parking lot. No one said a word.
When did that happen?
Not that long, whenever they did the steakhouse. That was what, 10 years ago? Is that, not even that long.
Yeah, so.
They just did it. No one's, the railroad doesn't care. I'm certain they don't care.
Well, I can revisit it with the city and just see where it is. I did talk to Stan Dameron recently about that site, and he, as one of the heirs, is advocating for it to be expropriated so that can be moved along. So we can get more information about that development.
I'll push the city just to do it. It needs to be done because.
I think we really need to put more thought into the parking lot when we design it. I mean, it's going to be one of the first things in downtown people see when they come in, and there's some opportunities there to repeat some of the things we maybe did at the park and, make it more than just a parking lot.
Yes,
I think there's some opportunity there that we can enhance it.
more than a
say,
parking
what?
lot.
That's a great expression, put the park back in parking lot.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna have the new sign right in front of that, so maybe that all can kind of, we can do some little low brick walls. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some opportunities there that, like you say, put the park and green it up, make some trees in it, and make it a little bit more of a nicer parking lot. Mhm.
Continue the oak trees,
Yeah.
Well, I think now's a good time to talk to the city about that, because in terms of budgeting planning for the next fiscal year, which will start in July, our planning kind of starts in February. So we can see what some of the priorities already are and see if we're able to influence them further.
I thought that the Wongs were going to participate in some of the costs of that. That's what I understood.
We can,
It's
I
only
don't
gonna
have any
benefit them.
Right, it's for them, basically.
yeah. Yeah, so we can look at what a public-private partnership could look like, but there's no, basically, once it was put out to bid, I think it was, I don't know if it was last year or in 2022 when they put out to bid, that was even hastily done. So we don't want to repeat that. We want to make sure that we have a really intentional product that we're putting out there and have everyone be a part of it. So I will follow up with the city on that one in particular.
So I would pressure the city in the fact that the parking arrangements around K Street Station now are hazardous. They're illegal, they're illegally parking everywhere. It's dangerous. I don't even like driving down there now. You know, the trucks, the dually trucks are all back in the street. It's a mess. I think it's absolutely
It's
necessary.
gotta be hurting their business too.
They
I mean,
have been
another reason for them
parking
to
in the green
participate.
space.
I don't know.
And now that bicycle shop's gonna go in there right there too.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, they're already open,
Where's that?
so something for us
So
to
that segues into my next comment,
Oh,
if I can.
that metal
It's
building?
the unsightly properties. You know, I know we've talked, I don't know where the board is about this.
It's an October meeting.
So the pressure on these property owners, and I'm not gonna mention any of their names, I'm not gonna mention the Wongs or Darrell Smith, I won't mention their names, but, you know, these unsightly properties, we need to pressure these people to do something. I don't think anywhere in the city zoning ordinances is there a junkyard allowed in any part of the city, much less in our downtown development district. And the you know, property I'm talking about on the corner of Hanson and Cypress is basically a junkyard with derelict things sitting out in there. So I like whatever we can do to pressure those property owners and the city to start enforcing ordinances on derelict properties, get them into commerce. I know people that have approached me about wanting to buy properties downtown, and that there's properties that could be utilized, put into commerce, or just sitting there while the owner's waiting on, I don't know. But have you got pressure under them?
Yes,
They would
your
have to
comment
do
is
something.
heard,
Thank you.
very much so. I
Uh,
think about it
last
every
two-
single day.
Last two comments is,
Yeah.
who's gonna replace Cassie?
So we have a board meeting we have a retreat this Friday, where it's a working session, so we're doing some strategic planning for the year. We have our first board meeting on January 17th, which is where we will be electing chairmen for all of our committees. So that conversation will happen at that point. I have an idea about who it will be, who's the best qualified for it, but that will happen at our board meeting on the 17th.
Because traditionally, it's kind of been a board member sits on this committee and that person would chair it.
Yes.
That's the thought.
And that's technically how official committees are recognized. So in order for us to have a really good organizational system, that's the process that works best, is having a board member be the chairman.
Perfect.
For the design committee and then all of our other committees that we're trying to bring back, so that we can have more people engaged in doing all this work. So do you have one more?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I got one.
All right.
I got one, last one. I'm cold, I'm ready to go, but my feet are numb. What can we do as a committee to get the dang roundabouts fixed, that roundabout out there fixed? It's a terrible first impression coming in the
So
head.
that's on, I've talked about it with Whitney, now that she's in this new role. I think that it's gonna require us sitting down with the administration and seeing what they actually have funds for, or what they've already budgeted, because I get some information that things have already been budgeted for, and the work doesn't happen. And so I think us having a list of priorities, and I can summarize this conversation that we're having to have a list of items that we'd like to take to the city and just say, how do we work together to move these things along? And I feel like we're at the point now to be a little bit more vocal in that, and not just kind of leave email hanging or something like that. I think we need to be a little bit more participative in the process. And so with some of our plans for the new year, I feel like we will be able to create better communication and move some of those things along. So we can add the roundabouts to the list.
That's outside of our district, right?
It is outside of our district, but
Yeah, I realize it is, but I'm
I
just saying,
think it's
needs somebody it needs to be some pressure put on to like, let's get it taken care of. It looks terrible.
There's insurance proceeds, right? It has to be.
Well, I don't know.
You'd think they would.
Yeah, well, I was looking at our insurance. I'll tell you after. I do see, though, the importance of that being a wayfinding point for people to come into downtown. So if that's their first exposure off the interstate to the city of Hammond, that's not a very welcoming, message. So I do think that it's important. I mean, many main streets or downtowns will oftentimes put wayfinding signage or gateway signage at the places where they know people are making a decision about whether to go left or right or go north or south or whatever it may be. And so I do feel like we can have a say-so and request in seeing that be improved for the betterment of, the messaging, the welcoming message of you're in Hammond and we welcome you and we are more than a broken roundabout. So, one thing I did not put on here, but I do want to ensure that I let you all know, is that we are celebrating the 40th year anniversary of our Main Street program this year. It was 1984 was the first year that our program joined our community joined 4 other communities in the state for the first 4 communities to be Main Street programs. So we are going to be talking a lot about this tomorrow with our board retreat, but we anticipate celebration of this milestone and hopefully putting some of the similar mindsets that we had on 40 years ago to bring our community back and rolling up our sleeves and doing some more of that hard work so that we don't lose sight on the progress that we've accomplished over these past 40 years. So we're going to be tying our anniversary into a lot of our marketing, our events. So I'm excited for that and to celebrate that for our community. And it also celebrates the state's Main Streets program 40th anniversary, since we were one of the first 4. So there's going to be some additional things that come down from the state for this. So more to come with that, but wanted to let you all know and something to celebrate. So we're excited to celebrate in 2024 and do hard work while celebrating. So I think that's everything for me.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okie dokie.
So moved.